Few franchises have left an impression on me the way Universal Monsters did. The now 100-year-old franchise churned out over 80 films and plenty of unforgettable characters. By 1941, there were already 28 movies from the Universal Monsters catalog.
How many?
28 by 1941.
Holy fuck.
And they had been making monster movies for nearly 20 years by that point. What else could be done? Enter the Wolfman. I'm Randy Kirk. Welcome to the table, everybody. Thanks for joining us again, and as always, I'm joined by my two frightful fiends, a.k.a. Uncle Do and Frage.
I love that you're in the spooktacular spirit.
God damn it.
This episode marks our final entry in our Halloween series, and I'm actually kind of sad about it. I, along with Steve, am a pretty big horror buff, so I could probably dedicate an entire podcast channel to only horror. Steve, you might feel the same way.
I would.
However,
I do.
Frage, you never saw The Wolfman, so
No.
knowing you, I'm not that surprised by this. I know you haven't spent much time in the classic Monsters universe, but I guess you start us off by telling us why you never watched The Wolfman.
It's in the golden age, that's why.
That's not why. So I'm a big fan of horror. To me, horror really begins though, like in 72-ish.
Okay.
Let's say Black Christmas. That's how about Night of the Living Dead? Let's say 69, 68.
68,
okay.
sure.
Let's say that's the beginning of horror for me.
Subversion, when we start to see a little bit more gore. I get it.
So when I was a kid and I was watching the Mount Rushmore of, the Freddy, Jason, Michael Myers era, everything that was Frankenstein, Wolfman, Mummy was very cartoony to me. And I don't know, when you grow up and your hero is Fred Krueger, and then you juxtapose that against, like, Frankenstein, it just felt less than the Universal Monsters. And I was like, oh, they're old, they're probably not going to be very good compared to, what I'm watching currently.
The shock value of today.
Right.
Today being 1980, what? Yeah.
Right. 89, 90, 91, in that era when I'm just full bore, get my hands on everything I can get.
Yeah.
So there was something cartoony about it, and I just was like, oh, it's just less than. And so, not to say that I didn't want to watch it, I guess I did say that then. As I got older, I thought, I'm not opposed to it, it's just not my flavor, I guess.
Sure.
Enter my friendship with you, which is now 20 years in the running, and 21, 22, somewhere in there. And nobody that I know loves the Universal Monsters like Randy Kirk, who literally has one tattooed on his arm. So to say, you kind of were like, oh my God, these are, your stuff. It was like, not your childhood, but like things that that universe is something you really loved.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, that's fine. Show me. Did you see? No. Oh, you gotta.
God damn it, where were you like a half a year ago?
When we were discussing. It was 1 year ago.
Hold on. No, I gotta.
All right. That's two more hams we've just opened. The beer refreshing from the land of sky blue waters. So, I admittedly had never seen any Universal Monster movie until I met you, and I think The Invisible Man was in the first one we watched together.
Yes.
And I loved it. And then we watched Frankenstein, and I was like, I said to Frankenstein.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I did.
I am questioning our friendship.
Well, no, you're not, because
No.
we have been
you've questioned
the polar opposites of, like, I had made a thing beforehand, and I'm 2 hams in here.
at least 2 hams in each hand.
I made it. We are polar opposites. We are oil and water mixed, but it still works for us.
We're like a vinaigrette.
Right. It still works. Like, we're still a little bit sour, but we're having fun when we're sour.
Randy is the emulsifier, in our
He is the egg
in
to
the
our...
egg to our oil and vinegar.
Yes.
Put that on a t-shirt, fuckers.
Hold that shit
So
together.
I said, "Oh, here's a chance for me to see yet another Universal monster that I think is going to be pretty cheesy and cartoony."
Yeah.
But I'm open to it. And that was my preconceived, is like, oh, I don't love a werewolf movie necessarily, or a werewolf character, except Steve Buscemi. But what? What are you making a face again?
Silver Bullet?
Silver Bullet is
Silver Bullet,
so
well,
goddamn
still, it's fine. I don't know. There's something, like, I don't really love a vampire movie either.
Wolf with Jack Nicholson?
That's a terrible movie, by the way.
The Howling.
Howling.
Yeah.
The Howling is good. I'm sorry. We're
Yeah,
going.
that's okay. You know,
You said Wolfman movies.
You're right. I don't know. Like, okay. I thought Teen Wolf was kind of stupid.
oh my god.
How dare you?
I'm sorry.
80s kid.
I know.
What are you looking at, Dick Nose?
But I also.
That's right.
All right.
It's
Now-
a great shirt.
Shout out to Dick Nose.
Styles is such a great character.
Uncle Do, you had seen this or no?
So it's been about 10-ish years since I've seen Wolfman.
And how many times have you seen it?
I love that we're calling it Wolfman, by the way, because it's very British.
I love wordplay when it comes to stuff like that, and when it comes to spooky times like Halloween, I find it funny when I hear something pronounced a certain way. I catch on to it.
Such as Tam Hunks.
Tam Hunks, a Skellington,
Rob Schneidley.
Rob Schneider, Skellington. I say Skellington instead of a Skellen.
What?
I don't know how to say it the right way now. I've said it Skellington for so long. And Wolfman. The Wolfman.
Elliot Wolfman.
Attorney at law.
Saul Wolfman.
So it's been about 10-ish years. Not because I don't love it.
Because you do love it?
I do. I hold. So you talked about the Mount Rushmore of your horror. Right?
Yeah.
You said Freddy Jason. My Mount Rushmore, as it probably is Randy's, is Bella as Dracula, Boris as Frankenstein, the creature from the Black Lagoon, or
the creature from the back of the lagoon.
our good friend Claude Rains as the Invisible Man,
The Invisible Man.
and Lon Chaney Jr. as the Wolfman. That is-
Junior.
yeah,
An important distinction.
I said Junior.
I know. Yeah, I know you did.
That is my Mount Rushmore. My Mount Mushmouth. My Mount Rushmore of horror. Because I am classic horror. I am not gore. I am not post 69 horror. I am creature features. I am strange red era. We're talking about aliens, but we're actually talking about Russians. We're actually talking about, the changing of times. Like, are there communists living in... We've talked about...
Wolfman came out before Pearl Harbor happened,
That's
which
very
I think
true.
is so bizarre.
That's
Again,
very
talking
true.
about the time
But-
stuff.
2 days after, because it was December 9th.
Oh,
So
I'm
horror
wrong.
comes from a place of theater of the mind, right? There's always some sort of monster that lurks in the night. It's what we believe is evil.
That's my love of the classic horror. Is
Yeah.
because there is a definitive good versus evil.
Right.
And good always wins. Which is it's kind of childish, where it's like fairy tale. However, you have a very clear goal, and you know that the good guy's going to win. So there's something very fun about it.
Right.
It's not there's not much to it, but you're going to have.
And
a
you
good
said
time.
childish, and so my entry to the Universals was Abbott and Costello.
Oh, hell yeah.
So I was like 6 or 7, and my dad's like, I think you're about.
Was it Frankenstein? Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein?
Yes,
Was that your first?
uh-huh.
Yeah.
And then of course, because I was Abbott and Costello guy, we've got to watch Dracula and Wolfman now. And
I think I watched the Three Stooges meet the something or other. They
Yeah.
met one of them.
The
or
Invisible
two of
Man,
them.
I think it is.
No.
No.
I think it's like 3 of them. I think they did like,
I'm trying to remember which ones they did.
and it was later. You know, it was like a Curly Joe or a Joe
Yeah.
Besser or something. But
After the cartoons that
Yeah,
they did. And,
yeah. and that to me was like
when you announced the number of Universal films,
80.
Well, and that's not to say... You
and
know, they-
24 of this. It doesn't surprise me, but to put it in a quantitative thing, it was like, oh yeah, there is, because Lon Chaney Jr. himself, 5. You
So
know?
everything, has kind of been lumped into that,
Yeah.
where it's like the classic era, where it's, from 1923 to 1959.
Yeah.
Where it's not just true monster movies, not just Dracula, Frankenstein, Wolfman, but, all of them put together where, you got The Raven, The Old Dark House, Hunchback of Notre Dame, like all that's in there.
White Zombie.
Yeah. So all the Universal pictures but I mean, they made a shit ton of movies
Yeah.
in not a lot of time.
Right.
I do think if we're, I guess, discussing eras of horror and different tropes and different things, I've always said, and maybe not always, but I now say that the style of horror that I like the most is it could happen to me. Okay? I think that if it could happen to me, then I'm able to relate.
Okay.
And that's what makes... Like, I'll watch a lot of really bad horror movies. There's a lot of direct to Netflix or what have you type of B horror. I'll watch a lot of that. Just because I'm like, oh, it's something new, whatever. And the ones that really get me are the ones where I say, this could happen to me.
Yeah.
Which is why things like Elm Street or The Strangers are, like, The Strangers is a 10,
Yeah.
because it could happen to me.
That might be my favorite modern day horror is The Strangers.
Okay, then we're all in agreement there.
Yeah.
Well, the home invasion one slasher is really one that almost anybody can relate to.
Right.
Right.
The demonic stuff, a la, The Exorcist, doesn't get us, Frage, you and I necessarily, because we don't believe in that shit.
Right, and so here's my problem is I don't believe that there's a Wolfman or a Dracula
Right.
or a Frankenstein's monster.
So
And I don't know where you stand on the demonic stuff.
it's whatever. I don't. So here's we've talked about this in the past. If there's lore behind it, if there's this
universe?
universe, if there is some sort of basis where it came from the 17th century and so on and so forth, like, I'm in it. Like,
Yeah.
there is some sort of documentation that someone, it was probably just epilepsy, but to
Well,
me,
again, so in the Wolfman, so Claude
Sorry.
Rains says that, at the very beginning, when Larry comes home, and he says, about the duality,
Yeah.
of the lycanthropy, where he says it's basically like, split personality, where there's some basis in fact there, where somebody created this story because of split personality. Some guy, drinks a lot or has whatever, and he just goes batshit crazy.
Sure.
Jekyll and Hyde.
Jekyll and Hyde.
At some point, there was probably some dude named Jesus, and then somebody goes, "Oh, let's write down some shit."
Well, we do see the Wolfman in
This dude gave us endless amounts of wine.
A lot of content that guy gave us.
Is it Spain or is it South America where we see these people with this growth of hair?
Oh, hell yeah.
And they look like dog people, as it were. They look like wolves walking. So there's, who knows? It could have been something of that. So, fun fact with Uncle Do, lycanthropy, what we know about Wolfman, the lore of
Are we sure it's not lycanthropy?
Tomatoes.
the rules in the universe of werewolves, right? Mm-hmm. This and 39's Werewolves of London is where it established all of the hard rules of werewolves. The silver, the moonlight, the getting bitten by a werewolf and you become a werewolf. Those rules, there were some things about werewolves and so on and so forth, but it wasn't this hard, everybody now believes it. It's like zombies, right? There were some zombies shamble in '69, zombies run in 2023.
Sure, sure.
Zombie rule, you know, get them in the brain and they're done.
Well,
Yeah.
and in 1969, there were no rules. Like
Right.
he was literally making them up.
That's the same thing with Werewolves of London and The Wolfman. Those
By the way, I fucking hate that song, Werewolves of London, whoever sings that.
Warren Zevon.
Oh
Yeah.
my god, talk about a channel changer for me. Oof.
I enjoy it. Although, I mean, same chord
I
progression as
enjoy
Sweet Home
Adam
Alabama.
Sandler singing it.
Yes. Throwback to Hubie. But yeah, so I like it. Same chord progression though, like I said, of Sweet Home Alabama.
You know
It's
what?
the same shit.
I don't like that song either.
See, I like
So,
both,
you know, they...
but you talked about the moon though. I did, you know, just throwing in a fun fact there. A lot of talk about the moon in The Wolfman. You don't see the moon.
No.
They don't show the moon.
Because it's hard to shoot
Sure.
night for day.
The backlot of Universal
Right.
Studios.
Well, that's why you use the old cardboard moon or the Tatum O'Neal paper moon.
And that'd be a little bit too much, right? We already have a little bit of a schlock. We already have a little bit
It's too much.
of cheesy. And so we don't show the moon, which is fine with me. That little saying that they say, you know, with the... It's completely made up.
The man is pure in heart. Yeah.
I remember it from the last time, but like it refreshed, and I was like, we have never heard that in anything else werewolf related.
It's brilliant. But,
Right.
you know, within 30 or for a 70-minute movie, you know, within the first, 20 minutes, you hear it 3 times.
Right.
I'd like to talk about I wrote it down, how ridiculous it is that 3 different people
Yeah.
recited it to him. God, that pissed me off.
So, yeah, it's a little bit overkill. If you'd heard it on the back end of the movie,
Sure.
that would have been better.
Or
rather than
as a
stacked.
revelation would have been even better yet.
Yes.
Like as somebody says it and then realizes that that's what's happened.
So
Yeah.
which
this-
again, squandered opportunity.
this isn't my. This is probably number 3 in my Universal.
Okay.
What are the first 2?
Frankenstein number 1.
Okay.
Everything about Frankenstein to me is beautiful.
James Whale, man.
Right. Camera movements, not saying anything. You let the pictures speak for themselves. You don't have to have actually talking.
Yeah, you look at Karloff. He doesn't say anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Just everything about it is cinematic for the sake of cinema.
yeah.
It is a love letter to one of the best times in cinema.
And Dwight Fry, who plays Fritz,
Right.
the hunchback, missed opportunity. He wasn't in The Wolfman. Should have been.
Should have been.
But
Are they all in the same universe? Like, are they in canon with each other?
up to this point, no. But then Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula, Son of Dracula. You know,
Right.
like, and then it becomes canon.
Right.
But up to this point, no.
They tried again with the reboot with The Mummy
Yeah.
and with the new Wolfman.
The one with Brendan Fraser?
Are you talking the Hammer stuff?
No, Tom Cruise.
Oh, you're talking that.
Yeah. So
Oh.
so they tried to reignite this whole thing, and they were going to have this dark. They took
Oh,
pictures of it. There was what's his name, Javert.
Javier Bardem?
No,
I don't know these words you're speaking.
Australian guy.
Russell Crowe.
Russell Crowe. There's Russell Crowe as Van Helsing sitting in a chair, and everybody else is behind him, around him. They tried to.
Oh, I've seen the
They
picture.
tried to get this. Oh, we're going to make. And Mummy tanked so hard that they were like, nope, we're not doing a Marvel movie like this. Nope, absolutely not.
See, and yeah, so that's what it became. You talk about canon, and
Yeah.
by 1943, there was Universal Monster canon,
Right.
Where they kind of had to rely on each other. There wasn't really an independent movie from that point on.
No.
It was all let's get them all together.
Right.
Now,
Which it kind of made it worse.
both Dracula and Frankenstein were based on classic novels
Yes,
from
correct.
the 1800s. Were any of the other ones based on classic novels?
The Invisible Man.
Yeah, H.G. Wells. Yeah.
Okay.
Preacher, not so much.
No, and Wolfman. Not so much.
Wolfman is an original story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't really put Jekyll and Hyde within this group.
Well, Universal didn't really do it.
Right.
Yeah. By didn't really, I mean, they didn't.
Right.
Because Warner Brothers did the Frederick March.
Right.
The pinnacle version.
Right.
So yeah, they didn't do one.
So it goes for me Frankenstein, then Dracula. I'm a big sucker. Boris is my guy, but Bela Lugosi, Jesus Christ, like, talk about the little engine that could. You know, he wanted everything and got nothing. You know,
You pull for him so hard, but
Right.
so for me, I mean, Dracula doesn't even hit the tip of the iceberg for me, because I mean, it's the other shit that he does, including Wolfman.
right?
Because when he played, Bella in this, I mean, you can, like, he gets to act.
Yeah,
Like, the character Dracula, he doesn't. There's not a whole lot of.
he's
meat
the
on him
Romany guy. He's the gypsy man.
there. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, so that's Bela Lugosi.
right. The character named Bella.
And
Yeah.
then Island of Lost Souls. And
Yeah.
The Raven. And,
Well,
I mean, like, he's.
I find it-
I am aware and capable of reading credits and such as I'm watching a movie.
Well, when we talk about things, you're like, I don't know who that is, and so like,
Well, fuck me, I'll just leave.
fun fact, Bela Lugosi really, really hit him hard to be the Wolfman, and they were like, absolutely not, man. You're old. Like, there's no way.
Well-
and then they really wanted Boris, and Boris was like, no.
They could have got him to be the dad character because I didn't buy that the dad was the dad.
Claude Rains,
Yeah.
with the
I think-
English accent.
Yeah, everything. I was like, why is
I
Claude
was
Rains
going to
the
bring
dad
that up.
of? Like, it's the most
The
weird
Invisible
casting.
Man is the dad,
There was only a 6-year age gap. I think.
right?
Yeah.
Like,
so-
what terrible casting. He was a tiny little
And
British
don't get
man.
me wrong, like, I see Claude Rains there, and I'm like, oh, Claude Rains, I'm super excited. I love Claude Rains, like,
And he is great. He had the best lines in the whole movie, and he was the voice and the actor in The Invisible Man.
Right.
So I mean, he's
right. So
brilliant,
I was happy
but-
to see him, but I was like, we've got Lon Chaney Jr. just rolling in there like the King of West. And he's big and he's gruff, and they're like, who's believing that Claude Rains is?
It is funny though, because
Yeah.
Lon Chaney Sr. He was only about, I think, 5'7",
Right.
to where Lon Chaney Jr. ended up being what, like 6'2".
Yeah.
So-
the funny thing is,
Which is tall for a man at that time.
Right,
I think,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but also I think Bella was about 6'1",
Mm-hmm.
and then Boris Karloff was 6 foot, 6'1".
And then the Karloff comp in Arsenic and Old Lace that we talked about
Yeah.
was 6'3".
Yeah.
And he towers over everybody in that
Right.
movie.
But you're right. Yeah, I mean, that's tall for that era.
Right. And,
Raymond, yeah. mhm.
and there is no reason that Junior should be the junior of the other guy.
Claude Rains.
Claude Rains, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you look at him and you're like, Claude Rains has an English accent. Where did
Right, like nothing made sense. It was so confusing.
I absolutely like? So I watch it as a film goer, and I'm going, did everybody really believe this? But
Well,
You know,
Frasier didn't, and he watched it in 2023.
there's part of me who's like, okay, there's the nostalgia part of it where I'm like, I don't care. I'm still in this to win this. Like, yes, this is a glaring, awful bit, but that's okay. I'm watching one of my favorite things.
So I want to talk about watching it in 2023, and one of the things, and I've noticed this, I've seen this movie probably 30 times.
Yeah.
40
30.
times.
You've 30 times.
Yeah. 30 plus. And, every time I've noted it, but then watching it with you, kind of like taking it outside, looking outside of myself.
Yeah, we watched this together. Randy and I watched this at the same time.
The meet cute thing with Glenn.
the shop.
It doesn't age well.
The shop scene?
Yeah, because
Holy
it's like,
shit.
I'm watching you with a telescope. It doesn't age well.
No.
And it comes on a little bit like,
So,
a little
Did I
strong.
say something when we were watching it?
You did not.
Oh, well, I wrote it down.
Okay.
fun facts with Uncle Dude, they hated each other.
Yes. Because I think he scared her a few times in costume.
Yeah.
Which, it's funny.
Well,
but not if you're her.
they gave her his trailer for some reason, and he thought that was a big fucking disservice to him, and so he's like, "Oh, you're this." I think her name's Cheryl Aikman, right?
No, Evelyn Anchors.
Evelyn Anchors.
Yeah.
And so he started calling her Shankers, and they absolutely hated each other. And it was like, you can kind of tell.
Cheney seems like a very hateable man. I feel like he's a heel.
Younger and now, there's something about him where he's big and he's burly in his voice. I always I always put it in the same vein as if they were going to shoot a live action Jungle Book or Robin Hood from Disney.
Yeah.
Lon Chaney Jr. to me is Baloo the fucking bear.
Sure.
And I know that's
I like
not
that.
because Baloo the bear is actually Phil something or other. Fantastic singer. Used to be on all of Dean Martin's show. He was a Jack Benny player. That's the actual. But like that, when I see Lon Chaney Jr., I'm like, this is a big man who's going to give you a hug. This is Baloo the bear.
To your point, Randy, I don't know if I would call it a meet cute, just because it wasn't like happenstantial.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was deliberate and creepy.
Right.
Which leads me to a question. I made a
Meat creep?
Yes. So
Steve Bass had so many of those.
so many. So I have, when I watch things or live my life, I'm very observational, and this is why Jerry Seinfeld's like my hero. So I like made a note about this and how creepy it was, but yet there's something so admirable and sophisticated about a telescope.
Yeah.
So why is it that telescopes are admirable and sophisticated, but binoculars are creepy? Like, what's the difference? What makes one...
The distance?
Yeah, but they go... Oh, so you're saying a telescope goes further.
Right, yeah. So you have the... your goal is to look at something farther away, meaning space. You're going to look at the stars, or you're going to look at other planets. With binoculars, it's really, 50 to 100 feet away?
I want to look at birds.
Right. Birds.
Right.
AKA tits.
Right.
Right. I'm going to look at a couple of birds.
So that exacerbates the problem.
Yeah.
I dropped my pen. That I'm a fidgeter, so you can't watch this, but I'm literally like just jiggling this pen all over the place. So the whole point of him using a telescope to look at a bedroom is 10 times more creepy than the generally creepy binoculars.
Well, sure, but the fact that he's helping his dad put in the parts to this telescope, he's not really meaning to find anything.
Yes, he is.
But it wasn't.
Come on, Randy.
But he's not, though. He's like, hey, I just put in the part to this telescope. I just got back from America. He's from California. I'm just going to check some shit out. He's not meaning to, but he happens to find it. That's why it's not full-on creep.
Well,
or if it's like he's just sitting there in a wheelchair, and he's like, oh, I'm going to find it.
But here's the thing. Celestial beings and various space items are up, and he turned it down and away from the sky.
He's been away for 20 years.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
If you're going to look up is the other way, pal.
One thing I will say, though, including the parts with the telescope, are the sets and production design are beautiful.
Absolutely.
With the exception of the fog. There was way too much fog.
There's a lot of fog.
Too much fog.
I mean, for 80 years ago, 80 plus years ago, I think it's so cool because it sets the tone.
Well,
we never got to my preconceived.
Oh yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, we didn't need to because I've seen it a lot.
Right.
But for me, it was always on at Halloween.
Sure.
I don't remember which channel fucking played it every year, but it was always on. And, it is that fog. And I think that's why Halloween parties, haunted houses, and all that shit, like, there are fog machines.
Commercials.
They play that it's just that creep atmosphere. And it's not in every Universal monster movie.
Right.
But this one, it really did amp it up. But it had that look, and I think just kind of the production design of the Wolfman.
I want to know you're preconceived now. I want to know you're preconceived.
Well,
when did you see this for the first time? Do you remember?
I was probably 8. And so it kind of peeked behind the curtain of my life. So my sister, she used to go to my cousin's Halloween party every year, and it was all a girls thing.
Yeah.
So I could never go. And so pretty much every Halloween for a little while, my mom and dad, would let me rent, a horror flick or sit home and watch horror movies, and I'd have some snacks and whatever. And one of the years, yeah, absolutely. But I was probably 7 or 8 years old. And I rented The Wolfman because I was intrigued by the cover, the VHS cover, at the video store, which were wonderful places back in the day.
Miss them.
And I sat there and I rented The Wolfman and The House of Frankenstein same night, which I
wow.
realize are out of order now.
Yeah.
but it was a fun night.
Yeah.
I had a great time. But
Yeah.
yeah. But to me, I mean, we did this series because these are movies that make us. The movies that make us feel like, it's Halloween time. And so this is one of them for me.
So once again, living in that the house of, my dad was born in 58, and so he came from that time period of creature features.
Hell yeah.
Svengoolie was actually Svengoolie, on a regular TV show for him, and
That's
so
fun.
that would be a Friday or Saturday night. It'd be an old horror movie or an old scare movie. Maybe it was The Ants, or maybe it was Night of the Leapids. It wasn't, because Night of the Leapids is like 1972. But
Dude, did you ever see that great movie Ants with Suzanne Summers, the TV movie?
Yes,
It's fucking incredible.
it's awful.
You're awful. Get out of it. Carry on. Sorry.
So that's the same way. Fell into it. Hey, here's all these old scary movies.
Yeah, and I really don't know what attracted me to the black and white movies. My grandma had a VHS copy of Frankenstein back in the day.
Okay.
And I don't know, it was VHS, so it came out
Yeah.
in the 80s. But it just looked so old.
Yeah.
And I thought, there's something so cool
So
about that.
old.
So vintage. And
Now remind me, did that have the black and white cover, or did that have?
it was a black and white cover.
It was the black and white cover, because there's that beautiful theater cards, with colors that just aren't seen in nature.
Yeah.
That are the movie posters that are.
And I love those old lobby
Right,
cards, man.
yeah. Oh.
Yeah, they're just out of this world, stupid, ridiculous, and they've
like
got
this color has never been seen in nature. Like, what the fuck, and like there's an artistry and a finesse to everything having to do with old horror that just isn't today.
What I like about it too is that they were navigating these things for the first time.
Right.
These kinds of movies had never been done before. So Visions for the first time, they're fucking pioneers. So you had talked about Werewolves of London, and so that was 6 years prior to this.
Yep.
So there had been werewolf movies before,
Right.
but they were really kind of navigating uncharted waters. And I think that there's just something so cool about that.
Right.
That, nowadays everything's been done.
Yeah.
100 years ago, 80 years ago,
There's
hadn't been done
no
before.
there's no new IP when it comes to something like that. Like, yeah, every once in a while we
Yeah.
get something like Doctor Sleep.
you could do it in new ways.
right, but it's the same thing. There's still somebody, like, if you think about it, like, everything's a Freddy Krueger because it's getting you at night. The Nun is Freddy Krueger because it's getting you while you sleep. Like, there's everything else has had some sort of idea before that, and I think it's these. Yeah, Frankenstein's not original. That's Mary Shelley.
Sure.
But before that, there wasn't Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. That wasn't discussed.
Well, they'd never seen it on screen.
Victor
before. I mean,
Hugo-
technically they had in 1910. But
Victor Hugo and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Yeah.
H.G. Wells, like, all of that. Like, yeah, we read about it, but it wasn't put to.
Visual.
There wasn't an art. You talked about the set design.
Oh my God.
Um,
and I just wanted to make another note because 80 years ago, people in the 40s, they were just so much classier than they are
Yes.
today. I mean, fuck, everybody dressed to the nines.
Another fireplace that was fucking taller than a man.
I love it that
In
Claude
the
Rains goes over
antique
there.
shops.
The fire is fully roaring, but he goes over there with a poker. Getting that fire going.
What are you poking, sir?
the
I'll tell you what he's poking.
Claude, when you come in,
Lon Chaney's.
Lon's mother.
I couldn't even finish the joke. I was laughing.
but like in the antique shop, all of the canes and that, you don't walk into a shop and you just, I need a cane.
Nobody uses it. I mean, unless you need a cane, nobody
Okay.
uses a cane
Walker.
anymore.
Lon Chaney didn't use the cane.
Well, he brought. I love it because when he goes to meet Gwen later on that night, and he says, "And you see, I wore my cane." He wore it.
So,
But he never once used it as a cane in the entire movie.
Nope.
I wrote it down.
I
I looked for it too.
just-
I want to
dressed
go
with his
back to
cane.
your set design and whatnot.
Yes.
I have a little bit of fun facts with Uncle Do.
Oh boy.
So Claude Rains and Lon Chaney Jr., Larry and Larry's dad.
What?
Larry and Larry's dad. I forget what their last names are.
Talbot.
Right, Talbot. He calls
Sure,
him
Talbot.
Oh,
they go to the church.
Frenchman.
They go to the church, and it's like, it's not really a church, it looks like a cathedral.
you know it.
The cathedral set that they used was actually from The Hunchback of Notre Dame,
Cross that up.
starring Lon Chaney Sr.
You're so proud of that.
I wrote that one down too. Yeah, I mean, how cool is that though?
That's
'Cause
fantastic.
I'm sure that Junior was there. You know,
Yeah.
he was probably on set, but still, just to be at that cathedral, you know, where your dad made this fucking huge movie at the time.
Right.
That's amazing. Mm-hmm. It's a good
It's
fact.
everything, the sets, everything in this movie, like from the Romney camp, the gypsy camp, from
That's my favorite set. out of the whole
yeah.
thing. Yeah.
from the woods, like all of it.
The woods are cool, and you know, DeFrazier's point about the fog. You know, there's a lot of fog going on, but that's why, yeah, the gypsy camp to me, that's the best. Those buggies are just the coolest thing.
Can I just say, this gypsy bitch shows up throughout the entire movie.
Yeah.
The whole point of being a gypsy is that you travel around. She was in town for an awful fucking long time.
Well, a few days.
No, you show up for the festival, and there you are for the
they're there
autumn
for the
festival.
harvest.
Okay,
Harvest
but
Festival.
here's the problem I have, though. Like, I wrote it down. I was very fucked on the whole timeline. So,
The funny things about Romneys is once they stay in a place, they stay in a place and ruin it.
all right, I'm going to remember that for the rest of my life.
You're welcome.
for all the gypsies you encounter.
So, I had a
south.
hard time. So, he turns into the werewolf in the full moon, yeah?
Yeah.
And then he turns into the werewolf 2 more times, which means it's been 3 months. I was very confused. I was like, wait, a whole month has gone by?
We're now treading on, like, we haven't established all of the rules. And so he just turns whenever the moon is full, right? So,
Right, which is once a month.
But it's that you suspend the disbelief where it's
Right.
not a crescent moon.
It's that MacGuffin.
Yeah, where it's
Well,
like
that's fine, but then why would he turn back? Why would he go back and forth? Wouldn't he just stay?
No, the moon goes down. You change. The bad stuff comes out at night, so you're the bad stuff at night. The good stuff comes back out of the day. You're looking too. It's more literal, Steve. You're
All
looking
right.
too philosophical of it.
I was thinking, I'm like, wait, it's been a whole nother month? And I was very confused.
No.
yeah. So you know, the moon, the full moon comes out at night. The sun comes up in the morning, goes back to being Larry Talbot,
Okay.
and then that night when it's still nearly a full moon,
Right.
he goes back to being the Wolfman.
Well, that makes it better. Because
So-
I was like, why is it a month gone by and things are still weird? The gypsies are still here.
Oh, and I can understand why maybe you wouldn't have liked it from that viewpoint.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you know the gypsies were there for a weekend.
Yeah.
A week.
Making money, doing what they do, and then they move on where they can make money elsewhere. Or,
Taking the money from the townspeople.
right.
I literally
or
wrote that
stealing.
it seems like only a couple days.
Yeah,
And,
and I think it
technically
really
is.
is only 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
Okay.
That this takes place in. So, but I can.
Well, that does change my perspective.
So
Ooh.
a
Does it
fun
change your score?
No.
A fun thing about TCM and AMC is back in the day they used to play trailers of the old movies.
Okay.
Through that. And I vividly remember the trailer for The Wolfman, and it includes a bear fight.
Oh yeah. I know about the bear.
So the bear was supposed to be an integral scene, but they lost the fucking trained bear in the middle of shooting. The bear fucking takes off. It goes after
Evelyn Anchors.
Evelyn Anchors.
Yeah.
But then it fucks off. How do you lose a bear making a move? Or like, and what was the decision afterwards? They're like, oh, bear's fucking gone. Okay, like let's just keep going.
Right.
Like,
Cut.
yeah, like bear's fucking gone. Let somebody else worry about the fucking bear.
That's it.
You know.
I want to mention here just another little fun fact. The wolf, I'm using air quotes there, that attacked Chaney Jr. was actually Lon's own German Shepherd.
Yep.
And this was the Bella the Gypsy that had turned into the wolf?
Yeah.
Yes.
Bella.
Okay.
Yes, when he attacks Chaney Jr., that wolf, air quotes, is
Lon
Lon's
Chaney's
German Shepherd.
Okay, so this begs the question, and it really honked me off the whole time. Why did he turn into an actual wolf, but Lon Chaney turned into a man with shit on his face?
when you're a wolf longer, the more you turn into the thing.
Yeah, supposedly.
What and where is that rule established where the moon isn't?
Yeah. So there's also this concept going around that it's how it's perceived.
Sure.
You know, where how you perceive yourself versus how you perceive the others. So how Lon had viewed Bella was as just a full-blown wolf.
Sure.
Whereas Chaney...
Which is
Jr.
also how the audience is told that it happened.
Correct. And so...
You're lucky you got that full-blown brute wolf, because if it was the writer's way, you wouldn't have seen... It'd have been fucking Jaws. You wouldn't have seen the shark
I would have
until-
liked that way better.
Yeah, until the total end there.
So I didn't write this down. I didn't research it a whole lot.
Yeah.
So this actually is something that I just kind of have in
No.
the back of the brain.
Yeah.
So the script, as it was originally written by Kurt Siodmak, and he's actually done a few other Wolfman movies.
Yeah.
This actually, they weren't supposed to show the transformation at all.
Right.
It was just supposed to be his internal struggle.
Right.
That, am I turning into a wolf? They're not showing it. Is he going crazy? Kind of like a Jekyll and Hyde kind of thing.
Sure.
So with how he's perceived,
We've seen it
as,
with Nietzsche and the turning into the fly.
right, the wolf man, this shape shifting thing, kind of like how Dracula can turn into a bat, it can turn into a wolf, whatever the fuck. So with the wolf man, he's perceiving himself. He's the wolf man. So we see him as the wolf man, even though the others that are turned into a wolf transform into wolves. So it's just kind of how he shape shifts or transforms and what he sees himself as, and we, the audience, see him as.
Yeah, I mean...
Originally, we weren't even supposed to see the monsters, but
Yeah.
but Universal was
pushed
like
for it.
Universal was like absolutely the fuck not.
Which was weird because, again, just premiering 2 days after Pearl Harbor,
Yeah.
they were kind of hesitant on how much horror they should actually show.
Sure.
Hays Code.
Yeah. So, but they decided to actually keep that in to bring audiences in.
I just thought it was confusing. Like, I was very confused watching this movie. I enjoyed it.
But again, I guess if you don't, dig in, or if you're not like in love with it, and choose
Right.
to dig a little bit deeper, I can understand where it'd be a bit confusing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the events, in linear order aren't confusing. Except for the moon thing, which I was like, wait, another month has gone by? But, I was like, wait, so he's an actual wolf, but he's only, a man in a costume?
Yeah.
And I was like, one of these things is not like the other.
Yeah, it's just Lon's story, Larry's story that we see.
Yeah.
We don't see Bella's story necessarily.
I did write down about Bella and his acting and how fantastic it was.
Oh.
He, stole the screen, I thought, in every
gets it.
moment.
He gets it.
And also, he's got giant fucking baseball mitt hands. Have you looked at the man's hands?
Also, I want to just kind of piggyback off of the Bella comment and go to Lon. And I think you had talked about it with Lon playing Baloo. I think he plays tortured so well.
Yeah.
And it's probably because he kind of draws on his own personal shit in
Sure.
real life. But he plays tortured very well. Bella also plays tortured very well. They're both wolfmen, in this movie.
Unfortunately, Lon Chaney Jr. had a problem with alcohol
Why,
dependency.
Bella also,
Yeah.
drugs and alcohol. So like they both had their shit that they were dealing with. But I mean, roll time. I mean they killed it.
Yeah.
Walking it back a second because I forgot to ask when we were talking about the dog, the
Yeah.
German Shepherd. Have either of you ever actually been like bitten by a dog?
Oh yeah.
What did you? Oh yeah. I mean, you own dogs.
Yeah.
And you, Randy, previously owned in your childhood had dogs, but I mean like somebody else's dog biting
yeah.
you.
I've never been full on bit. I've
Okay.
been nipped at by dogs. I've
Right.
gotten clipped, whatever, but no, never full on bite.
I got bit in the ass one time.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah.
That'll lose a raspberry.
I
Did
was
it scar?
not a scar, but I was purple for like
Yeah.
10 days.
So we know some people who were part of the canine unit, and it was always one of those situations where I was like, I'd take a dog to the arm.
Oh, my
If I was
God.
in a suit, I'd take a dog to the arm, and it never like
Not like our other friend who wants to take a shotgun to the knee.
yeah.
Hey,
I forgot about that. But like there's many a times where it was like, oh, do you think we could suit up and get an attack dog? And it just never, the timing was never right. But
Nobody would ever do it, though.
I would.
No, I'm saying the authorities that are in charge of the
Oh,
dogs
right,
would
yeah.
never let you do it.
Oh yeah,
They'll let you do it.
yeah.
Even today?
I don't know now. He's not in the canine unit right now.
Oh, okay.
But at the time, there was discussion of it.
Oh, my God.
But yeah, I guess, shout out to my sister. The only one who I know that's, really been injured by a dog was my sister, Jean. And she, we had a husky, and just playing, just being a playful husky, kind of lunged at her, mouth open, and its, bottom fang scraped underneath her right eye. And, I mean, full on, like, stitches underneath the right eye. And it was just, like, literally centimeters
Yeah.
away from the
Blinding
eye.
her?
Yeah. So, I mean, it wasn't like gruesome, but it was scary at the time.
Rottweiler went after my leg.
Really?
Yeah.
And they actually got a hold of it?
Yeah. Got me.
Ouch.
Yeah. It was recent too.
Scar?
No, just a good raspberry.
He's bleeding right now, actually.
It was today.
He was going after the puppy.
having a
actually.
rough time with this
He was going
podcast.
after the puppy. He went for, and I was get out of
You
here.
tried to fend him off with your cankle?
Right, with my baby elephant leg.
That's what they call it now?
And he went and he got a piece of it, and then I got a piece of him, and so,
You bit him back?
yes.
And now he's a werewolf or you?
He's a wereman.
He's a dooman.
A doomman.
About noon, every March 17th, he turns into a full-blown man.
Oh, well,
Once a year.
coincidentally on your birthday.
Right.
That makes sense.
I don't know. There's nothing else to say. This is stupid.
So we usually go down
What the fuck are we talking about? Oh my god.
I love it. This is two. This is two episodes.
You got him and I got him.
Yeah.
What the fuck? I don't even know what we're talking about anymore.
So
We're talking about getting bit by a dog and turning into a werewolf.
We're turning into a dooman. Because you bit the fucking Rottweiler back. Oh,
Hey,
Jesus Christ.
anything can happen, okay?
right.
It can.
Tell me a story. You tell me a good story, I'll believe it. It can happen to me.
I want to hear more about this story.
You're not a dog. I can't bite you.
Thank Christ.
Fucking hell.
So how we usually go down, we break it down, and directing is next.
Everything else is cherry
No,
on the top. From
no,
here.
we're way past that.
That's amazing.
I'm trying to rein it in. Unlike Frankenstein, there's really nothing of note for the director.
Yeah.
It was what it was. You had some of the best actors in horror at the time, and you just let them do what they do.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not really. You didn't blow the lid off of anything with any sort of camera work, or I mean,
I will say I wrote down there's
the
there's
transformation.
there's a montage that happens later in the movie. It's the overlapping images
Oh yeah.
of people and dogs and flowers and all kinds of weird, and it's just overlapping images.
As he's transforming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I really thought that was, putting myself in 1941, I was like, ooh, that's pretty good.
And also, I mean, just a fun fact on my other page here. So the actual makeup, the transformation, took 6 hours. So
Holy shit.
it took 6 hours for the makeup to be applied and 3 hours to remove. So when you really think about it, I mean,
our friend Greg Nicotero would probably do it much faster than that now.
much faster. But Jack Pierce, I mean, being like the premier makeup artist of the day, I mean, there was nobody else that could do it like this guy.
Yeah.
But to think about 9 hours out of your whole fucking day just to be spent in a makeup chair, putting on, taking
off.
Jesus. And I mean, he didn't spend a lot of time.
Only one who does that nowadays is Doug Jones.
Right. I mean, dude, come on. Yeah. Doug Jones.
Doug Jones has
guy.
one of the greatest wardrobes of all time.
Man, shoes.
His shoes are spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out Doug Jones if you're listening. We love your outfits, sir.
Yeah. Classy guy. But yeah, just to think about it. I mean, just 9 hours of your day. Hey, we're just going to put you in some makeup here. Yeah, just sit still.
Yeah, and you couldn't watch TV or play on your phone at that point in time because that just didn't.
There was no TV.
There was
Guess
no.
what you could do? Smoke.
Right.
There.
Barely. So you had somebody go.
You might light your wolf on fire.
You had somebody whisper sweet nothings of smoke in your face.
That's
for
right.
you.
There's an album title.
What else do we got?
So, I mean, that's pretty much all I got here.
Me too.
So, all right.
I really like the ending of the movie.
And the only note that I took, and again, after seeing this for so many times, is that I know that the ending is a bit abrupt, but like I talked about at the beginning, like, there's good and evil.
Yeah.
Once that evil has been, done with, that, all right, movie's over. The end. Roll credits.
I actually, I liked the ending a lot, and I thought that it was a great early example of that whole trope where the parent thinks that they know best, and they like put out their beliefs or whatever, and then it turns out that they were silly for not listening to their child.
Yeah.
Much like the Nightmare on Elm Street or whatever. That's
And I think the good foreshadowing there is when Larry tells Mr. Talbot to take the cane. He's like, just take it, take it. And he's like, I don't really believe you, but I'll take the cane anyway. And obviously, it ends up saving him. And I think, you're right. I mean, that's just a good way of showing, like, he was right. I should have listened.
Yeah, and I thought that, like, I can't think of another example of that earlier than this. Not to say it was the first one, but but that kind of is the whole idea of like the Elm Street thing.
Yeah.
The parents thinking that they know what's best and that the kids are actually.
Yeah, I like it. It's a good point.
So that's what I took away from the end.
Before we rank, anything else?
No, we've hit all my talking points.
All right. Well, then, you want to start us off with the rankings?
So once again, I'm at just above middle ground. 7.5.
Okay, Frasier.
Well, I probably my preconceived notions. I was going in to all of these Universal ones as probably saying, I don't think I'm going to like this. And obviously, I have an open mind. I'm not going to just shut myself off. But
Not like you with a fucking Adam Sandler movie.
That's right.
Right.
Tomorrow morning, if you want to tune in at 8 a.m. to the Dan Patrick Show.
Fuck you.
So I go in, thinking, well, I'm probably not going to like this, but let's see what happens. And I was pleasantly surprised with this. Not as much as The Invisible Man.
Okay.
But I still gave it a 6. So,
okay. Just out of curiosity, and we're not doing it on this pod. You've seen The Invisible Man?
Uh-huh.
All right, so it's excluded. We can't do it anyway. What would you give The Invisible Man?
I probably would go 7.5 on that.
Okay.
I really enjoyed a lot of things about The Invisible Man.
I think that makes sense to me. I also would give it a 7.5.
Yeah.
That's my score on it.
Okay.
Because I do notice its flaws. It's not a perfect movie.
Right.
It's not even it's just a pleasure movie. It's not a guilty pleasure. It's I fucking like it.
Right.
So it's one of those where I can put it on any time of the year. It could be February, it could be July, it could be October. I don't give a shit.
But
I'll put
it
on.
has a lot of bright spots to it. It does have its merits,
Yeah.
even though we have poked holes in it. Of course, you can poke holes in any fucking movie.
And I
really.
do think it's got that eerie quality that you want around Halloween, where, you know, come October 30th or 31st, like, you're going to put on The Wolfman because it's like, ooh, it's a spooky movie. And even 82 years later, it kind of still holds up where it's like, yeah, it looks like Halloween.
You don't make a cereal out of nothing.
That's right. He said it.
You can make cereal out of a lot of things.
Well, there's a Wolfman cereal. It's called Fruit Brute, and it's fantastic.
Oats and grains.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's also Frankenberries, and there's Count Chocula, and there's
Blueberry.
I mean,
Great.
let's just list them all. Or we don't have to. That's fine. We can move on.
We can move on. So,
I guess, should we talk about what won the poll?
Yes, yeah, we could talk about what won the poll, and we're we've already posted this to the audience, but 1983 is going to be our next topic.
So
series.
things that are turning 40 years old.
Oh my God!
Since
Can't believe that.
we're closing the books here on
83.
on 2023, so
yeah.
let's reminisce and go what happened 40 years ago that we've never seen before.
Yeah, and
There's
we've
some
got
heavy
a-
hitters.
Yeah, so we've got a few in mind.
I'm super excited.
Yeah, so we'll get our movies figured out here, and we'll cover the topic of 1983. But until then, Frage, where can you find us?
Well, you can mainly just go to our link tree and just have fun with our link tree.
Click all of them.
All the links.
YouTube,
In
like,
particular, YouTube. Please.
Each branch.
subscribe. Do the same thing with Spotify.
Just clicking, subscribe on any of them so you get the little notification when we decide we want to start talking at you again.
And if you are bummed out that you didn't hit that poll in time, you follow us on Facebook so you don't miss it next time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be great.
We'll do more.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll do more.
I actually really dug that.
Yeah.
Because we liked hearing from you guys.
And thank you for everyone that participated. I thought we had far more votes than I ever thought we would. So.
Same.
And for those who are like, oh, mine didn't get picked, who knows? Maybe it's next year.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that so many people, it wasn't as lopsided as I thought. Like,
No,
all the categories had, votes. So that tells me that there's, there's meat on the bone there that we can go after.
Yeah, and with our stories on Instagram, I think we can do something similar. So maybe
Yeah.
we'll do that in the future. you know?
Sure. Follow us on Instagram at _the_table_podcast.
There it is. So, yeah, we appreciate you guys. Thanks for everybody that's listening.
Hey, thanks for joining us on this series, our Spooktacular.
There it is.
God damn it.
Our salute to the holiday Halloween season. We'll see you again next time when we bring a next series of movies to the table.
I love this season.
Nighty night.
See you, everybody.
Keep it spooky.